can happen will happen. But just like Black folks in this country, in the world, we adapt and we adjust to the challenge and difficulty.
Yes, amen.
You know, this is what we do, right? So you could try to block us, you could try to shame us, you could try to throw us off the path, but we stay ready. We stay focused.
This is good, Charles. This is good.
Oh, man.
We're good. We're good. We're live. Go.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yes, family. Yes, we're back. We're back. Grand Rise Collective Podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today on this live broadcast, this live episode with Kayode, our technical advisor, my podcast partner. Say what's up to the people, Kayode.
What's up, people? How you doing? Thank you for being patient with us. Go ahead, Cal. Keep going, man.
So without further ado, family, we have a special guest with us today. A sister that's doing great work in the community here in New York. I'm in Harlem, Kayode's, all over the city, and met the sister recently. She's doing great work. Miss Kelli Talley, who is a creative director, Black mental health advocate. And hello, Kelli, how you doing today?
I'm great. How y'all doing?
Doing well. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate that.
Oh man.
It takes.
We got it together. That's all that matters.
That is. So family, as you see here, we work together toward a common goal. And today's topic gonna be really, really interesting. Of course, something that we all have dealt with, we all deal with, relationships. So, our goal here is to not bring people apart, but bring people together, but also get a clarification on what are some of the things that are going on, because there's a lot of toxic stuff going on now. And, dealing with men and women and how we converse with each other, how we relate to each other, because relationships, the main word is relate. Like, how do we relate? And some people don't do that so well. So, we brought our sister on today to definitely give a woman's perspective, not but a woman's perspective, just like us, our perspective. So anything we say or anything we mention, again, what they say, blame it on the head, not the heart. We're coming from a genuine place, and you have a reason to disagree. So again, if you have any questions or you have any comments, put them in the chat below, and let's get the conversation started. Kayode, what do we have for the people today, brother?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of videos that I was watching, but if, with all respect, Cal, if you don't mind, I would like to give our audience and subscribers a little background on Kelli.
Yes.
Like if we could do a brief type, interview, because our audience knows us. They heard our background ad nauseum. But this is a young lady that from what I've heard so far, is doing great work in the community, creatively, everything. And I think, the audience should get some background on her.
Yes,
and we're going to do an ad hoc because we don't have formal questions that we put out, but just an organic type, get to know type session. And then I would like for us to launch into the relationship topic and, look at some videos and give our perspective. If that's okay with you, Kyle, and if that's okay with you, Kelli, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So Kyle, would you do the honors and lead off with the questions, and then I'll follow up based on that, so I get a clearer sense as well, and getting to know this fantastic young lady, Kelli.
Indeed. So, Kelli, could you tell us a little bit about, just how, you came into being with being a creative director and getting into Black mental health advocacy, because those are two unique things that normally people wouldn't put those two together, or maybe have that, or think of someone having that skill set in one person. So could you elaborate and tell us your background, how you delved into those different skill sets?
So with being a creative director, I'm a wardrobe stylist. Leap is my business. And I started that just because I wanted to be a part of helping others bring out their true confidence and tell their stories and see themselves in the best light, how I see them, how I believe the Most High sees them, and also just to create and have an outlet of making beautiful art. So I do editorials, I do indie films, and then I do personal styling as well. And as a stylist, most stylists, we all want either our own store and to be a designer. So I always wanted my own store. And originally I was going to do women's and unisex. But during the pandemic, with everything that was going on with Black men, the images that I kept seeing, it was like disgusting me. And having the background that I have in mental health, working at NAMI Suicide Helpline, volunteering there, and working in the foster care system, volunteering there, and seeing how mental health specifically affects our people, and starting with our kings, and then kind of, I feel like us as women, queens, we just kind of, I don't think we were the original targets necessarily, but we've been just as affected, women, men, children of our race. And so I said, you know what, I want to shift it to focusing on men and unisex, because everyone targets women because we're the number one consumers. So, they see dollar signs of women that they don't see with men, one. And I think that women are also big consumers of information as well. So when I'm on YouTube, all I see, and I don't know, maybe because I am a woman, maybe you guys see something different on your feed, but all I see is these podcasts and these influencers speaking to women more so than men. I see a few speaking to men, but way more address women. And I'm like, if men are to be the head of household and to be leaders of the community, there has to be some accountability there, but with love, not saying like blaming and pointing, but we all have to do the work. We can't just say, oh, women, you're single because of this, that, and the third, and not hold men to the same standards. So I decided to focus on men and you all's journeys and what you're going through.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's important. And just have, like you said, having that insight. And that's interesting what you said with the podcast, because we're on one right now, and a source of information. Women are consumers of information. And that makes me think of Kayode. That makes me think of the statistics they talk about recently, how women are the fastest growing population as far as starting new businesses, and also in reference of going to college, getting degrees, Yeah. And of course, we know that education doesn't always necessarily equate to degrees. We definitely know this, but just those stats, when you said that, those kind of popped out for me, when we talk about women consuming information, having information. And what have you noticed this in regards to the health of women? Because I know when we talk about health in men, and you and I talked about this when we met, is that a lot of men don't really take care of themselves. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. So with women, it seems like y'all have more information, or it seems like you all have been in the practice of taking care of yourselves. But it also seems like there's some neglect there as well. Because it seems, and when I'm saying that, because it seems like I'm getting mixed messages. Like, we take care of ourselves, but then there's neglect, and I'm trying to figure out like where that inconsistency is coming from. If you have some insight on it.
I think that the inconsistency comes from, I think that it's innate, or I don't want to say innate, but we are told our beauty is our value in society. And so we grow up getting our hair done, getting our nails done, and that's part of self-care. It's the fluffy part, but it's still a part of taking care of yourself. And typically women, we don't want to slip up on those things because that's what we're judged on, like just realistically speaking. I think that men have a little more leeway there. And so it's almost innate for women to practice self-care more consistently than men. Although I see that that's changing now. And that's why I started my company, Jean Josephine. But the inconsistency, I think, comes from having too much on your plate and trying to be everything and doing too much. And, you just kind of naturally lose some of that care and that love for yourself because you're giving it away to everyone else and trying to uphold your family, trying to uphold your community. And I think a lot of women feel that way. Like they have to work overtime to keep their cup full. So.
Oh, okay. Wow. Kayode, do you have any
I got a lot. But it's just a lot. I don't know where to start, honestly. So let me, Kelli, touch on accountability among men. I love that. What can you elaborate more on that in terms of so are you saying that for the most part, I would guess in general terms, that men aren't taking accountability for their actions? What do you mean? Please elaborate more on that.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. I think that there's a lot of men that do, but I think that it's with men of color, there's been almost like a stereotype of being hard and putting up this facade. And I'm really appreciative to see that coming down now more and more. But, in the neighborhoods that we typically come from, there's a lot of love in it, but there's also some danger. And speaking to different guys that I've spoken to, it seems like that's what they felt like they had to do for survival. They didn't feel safe enough to kind of be vulnerable and put that guard down. And so they walked around with that facade, that stereotype that is in our society of how Black men are, and y'all really aren't, but it's a facade and it's a stereotype. And I think that survival for men looks different than survival for women. And so I think that, that's the top of you got to take care of that first before anything else. So accountability is not going to be where survival is naturally. And I think that because of that, I think some men get stuck in that and like, I'm just surviving. I got to get through today. I got to make sure nobody, F's with me, that sort of thing. And the accountability kind of falls by the waist. And a lot of our women kind of, they coddle the mothers in the community. They coddle because typically that's what mamas do. And if you're missing that father figure, sometimes you're missing that structure and that discipline, and that's where accountability comes from. So, and this is not everyone again, but this is just, I've been doing interviews. That's how I met Kyle. And this is just what I'm taking from the data that I've collected.
Wow. Okay. Oh man. Yeah. We always talk about part twos, Kyle.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So wow, because all right. So first of all, let me say thank you, Kelli, for the work that you're doing. And Kyle, just like me, I'm not a fan of conflict. And I was raised, thank God, by a strong woman, my mom, and she taught me how to be respectful to my elders, respectful to, both genders. She enrolled me in schools that were diverse culturally and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that I pay my homage to women, and particularly Black women, who I was raised, and Kyle can tell you, they're the matriarchs.
I agree. Totally.
And, I wouldn't be who I am today had it not been in large part for my mother. But at the same time, that's not to take away from my dad. And the reason why I'm saying that is because what I noticed among our cultures, there seems to be this great divide among the nuclear family, or what we're striving to be with regards to men and women coming together. Saying all that to say, because there's a lot of stuff, it's so complex. I'm gonna do my best to try and dissect it as best we can, and learn from you, Kelly. I'm saying all this in terms of accountability and the confusion that seems to exist. There's so much to go into.
It is.
I know it's hard to like.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, so let's deal with the elephant in the room, right? So, or let me pose this question rather, as opposed to just throwing it out. Now, we seem to have, there seems to be a theme, and definitely, Kelly, you could give some light and shed some light onto this, and I'll make it personal as well. The struggle that men have today, and women as well, with relationships, in terms of the abandoning of marriage. All right. So we know there's the red pill. I don't know if you heard of red pill, Kyle. I'm sure you've heard me talk about and MGTOW and all that other stuff, right? So I'm just throwing out themes because it resonates with people like that. But as it relates to us as a culture, help us, clear some of these things up, Kelly, in terms of, again, talking about accountability for men. Men don't seem to want to get married anymore because it seems as though over the past, I would say 30 years, or possibly 3 generations, there's a new type of woman that, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not trying to be open. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go. Because Kyle, I go.
Exactly. Let it out. Hey, that's what we're here for.
So there's this turmoil in women, right? So, and let's not forget the systemic racism that has been incorporated into the whole complex issue of us in terms of family and the nuclear family and things of that nature, right? So we had welfare that came in, where, and you'll know the movie. I don't know if you know. I'm probably older than y'all, but the movie Claudine, right? I'm not with James Earl Jones, right? So you know about
Diane Carroll, Diane
Carroll that came in, right? Which made the husband, and in particularly the Black man, unnecessary in the home, because if we're going to be real, people of color and Blacks were the ones who weren't financially well off, so they needed women, particularly Black women, needed support to survive, right? So systemically, they were able to institute this type of financial subsidy for women, so that way they wouldn't need a man, which is how in the previous videos we did, Kelly, I talk about that, right? So you had that element come in, and then you have, and again, we're talking about well-off men, not all, but if we look at how generations have come, we have a lot of successful Black men now in entertainment, in sports, right? So it's not like all Black people are poor. So, and I'm saying this in terms of divorce, I'm saying this in terms of alimony, I'm saying this in terms of child support, right? So to wrap this up, I was trying to be as clear as I could, but I'm just gonna have to throw the question out there. In regards to accountability, and men not wanting to get married because of women not taking marriage seriously, or there being an incentive for divorce. How do you feel about that, Kelly, in terms of why men, in terms of accountability, we're talking about accountability, not wanting to even take that role of husband or boyfriend or protector or provider because it's not worth it? Could that be associated with, I know that wasn't your term of accountability, but what is your take on that?
So yeah, I wouldn't, I don't know if I would, I never thought about that. I never really thought about how the lack of accountability could equate to not even wanting the responsibility of being a husband and the responsibility of having a family. I didn't really think about that because I think in 2023, marriages are not happening on either end as often. I think that women are like, well, where's the value for me? Because, just about 50, 60 years ago, women, we couldn't even get credit cards in our own names. To your point, we had to, for survival, get married. And now society has made it so that women can be more independent. And it's almost like a catch-22 in a way, because the independence does remove you from or disconnect you. I don't want to say remove, it disconnects you from your femininity to some extent. And so that might be less appealing to a man, because instinctually that's still, no matter what year we're in, women are still attracted to masculinity, obviously not all women, and men are still attracted to femininity, obviously not all,
Yeah.
But
Spectrum.
So I think that we're seeing less of that in each other. And I think that the roles are getting mixed and meshed. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. But from an attraction standpoint, I can understand why men are like, I don't really want to get married, for what? Like, it's just not traditional anymore. And I can understand why women are like, you know what, sis, I got me. I get it both ways. So I don't know if it has to do with accountability, but possibly I have to think about that more.
Understood. Yeah, yes, go.
Let's
go.
But
Okay.
no, that's a great question
So-
to chime in, you all. That's a great question, because like I said, accountability, like defining that for ourselves and our relationship, and how, like I said, how it being present or not being present as to who we choose as a partner, who we're attracted to, who we're not attracted to. And then, like you said, like Kelly, like you mentioned, like those traditional, and Kayode talked to me, him and I talk about this on numerous occasions, like who's tradition? Like when we talk about traditional, people throw these terms out, like who's tradition, because you're following somebody's tradition. And typically when we talk about Black and brown folks, it's our oppressors' tradition. And it's not to say that the term marriage in the general term of marriage, or what we know it to be, we think that's something we started as a people. That's something that Africans started, that tradition of what we now deem as marriage. We started that because that comes from that has to come from a tradition. That has to come from a communal practice. So, I think that a lot of times, like we just kind of like say these terms, and not us per se, but like in general, we say these terms and just like, well, I want a man who's traditional. I want a woman who's traditional. And it's just like, do you even know what that means?
Yeah, I you know what? I'm not sure that people can define that, but I do know that there has been, we evolve as a people. So what used to be is no longer. So whether we want to label it traditional or some other term, that's fine. But I do think that people are aware that women are not the same that they were in the 1920s, and neither are men. To say that at the least, we could remove the word traditional from it, though, for sure.
Good point. Yeah.
Okay. No. Because first of all, I think we need to have more conversations like this. I think this is necessary. I think, men. All right. So just get away from the term tradition. I think some of the things are just biological. You can't change biology. Okay. I don't care how advanced we become as a society. I don't care what new developments they come up. You can't change biology. And by biology, what I mean is in terms of, okay, we're not the same as in 1920. You know, women are not the same as in 1920, and neither are men for the most part. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think men, for the most part, not using the word traditional, are the same since the beginning. Right? We have an innate feeling or compulsion to protect. We have an innate compulsion or feeling to provide. We have an innate and compelling feeling to be that provisionary. That's not going to change. You can see it today. But what has changed, and just talk about this, Kelly, what has changed in terms of, and I got to be real careful as I say, men are not perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. We made mistakes. And I talked about this in the last video, Cal. Yes. Remember what I said? When women, to your point, Kelly, in the 20s needed man to survive. That's absolutely true. Like you said, they couldn't even get credit cards in their own name back then. They couldn't even vote, by all means. And I think for the most part, men in general, regardless of your culture, because of that, we were stupid as men, ignorant, immature, the whole nine, all the labels you want to give. And it was because, you know, you never miss your water till your well runs dry. You had this, you know, members like, oh, well, these women depend on me. So, you know, and you heard the statement, you hurt the ones you love. So black men in particular going to the workforce can't get a job. I know this personally from my parents. You know, they had this frustration and they had their women in the home who were there ready to take care of them and nurture them. And because they had problems on the job, they would bring that nonsense home to their wife. And because their wife had no other options, right? You hurt the ones you love. You know, we as men, both genders, are paying the price for that. So I am not giving men by any shape, fashion, or form any excuse. So I want to make that absolutely clear. Okay. And now we learn it. We're paying the price for that behavior. As men, you should appreciate the woman that you have that's there. You know? So there's always a cause and an effect. Right. So now, because of that history that we have, and which has been, I guess, magnified through the color purple. You heard me talk about this too, Cal, in our last video. Yes. Magnified by Waiting to Excel, right? Where you have a black man who works so hard, he finally gets it, what have you. And now he gets it. He shucks the wife who was there with him through the thick and thin to go to this other woman, right? Women felt the effects of that, all right? I'm just saying what it is for those who had that opportunity. Okay, fine, cool. What's done is done. What has changed now from what I'm seeing and the frustration that's going on where men are like, okay, all right, damn, I fucked up. Excuse my language, but I'm just being real. I messed up, okay? I'm trying to fix it. And now what you have is women from that generation are telling their daughters, you know, don't depend on no man. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, right? From the inner cities, growing up with my parents, my grandparents, the whole thing is a cycle thing. You better make sure you have your own. You better go to school and get your education because you don't want to be in a situation like that. And that's not a bad thing. But when it comes to a point where women now with, and this new generation now with the technology and the Instagram and stuff like that, where they have, and we're talking about hypergamy. I don't know if you heard of hypergamy and all this other stuff. It's now a situation where men are like, okay, I fucked up. I messed up. I'm sorry I made that decision. I'm sorry I did that. I'm trying to get it right away. And now you have women like, yo, F you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna live my life. Women want to be protected and stuff like that. I think in this whole adjustment period where we're going from one extreme to the next, we're forgetting the core values, Kyle, like you said, in regards to that tradition is out the window. We created that whole mess. You're forgetting that we only can survive and thrive together and not apart. And we can only thrive and survive respecting one another, not disrespecting one another. And you can only do that with someone who accepts you for who you are, loves you for who you are, respects you for who you are. And the big thing is knowing our roles and accepting our roles. A man as a provider and a protector, a woman as a nurturer and a supporter. That's just what it is. And I think that's what we're losing and missing in our conversation. And Kelly, I want to get your take on that in terms of, do you think we could get it together? Did what I say make sense? Or what is your feedback to that?
Yes, I 1000% agree that there's something missing there. Absolutely. And as far as roles, and I think that's, you know, to my point, I think that is the disconnect. Like, I think that that's why men and women are getting married less, because, you know, when women have changed, and I know you don't think men have changed, but men have changed. I'm out here dating. Men have changed. And some for the better, some for the worse.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all bad. I'm not saying that, but and maybe the change is because women have changed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's the chicken or the egg first. I don't know. But for sure, that provision part, it is different. It's definitely different because women have more access. And like you just said, Black women are the leading group of new entrepreneurs, not Black men. Black women have always been in corporate America before this new surge of entrepreneurs. You didn't really see Black men in corporate America as much. And I think that that is very purposeful and strategic. You know, I don't think that they wanted to put Black men in those positions. So the disconnect and the erasure of the Black men from homes and from workplaces and from college and from all of those things is very intentional, in my opinion. I don't think it's a mistake at all. And I think that that right there is why men are different.
How? And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was going to just say that I think that that's why men are different now, and the provision part of that role is not what it used to be. You know, and women are different. Obviously, we have more access. You know, women are out here working and doing the damn thing. So the need is also different slightly, but not really. I think that most women, not all, but most women still want to be protected and provided for. I was watching this thing on HBO yesterday. It's a series. I think it's called Single Ladies or something like that. And it's different women of color sharing their experiences with past dating relationships and whatnot. And there was a woman on there. The episode that I saw yesterday was about women cheating in their relationships. And there was a woman on there who said that she got married, you know, fell in love with some guy that she went to church with, got married to him, had 2 babies, and ended up cheating on him because she was just tired of being the main provider. And she had to go back to work a month after giving birth. And 4 weeks. Her baby was 4 weeks, and she went back to work. And she didn't feel protected and provided for. And I know that her story is not just her story. It's not everyone's story. Of course, there are a lot of Black women who can say, like, yeah, my man protects and provides for me and everything. Of course. But I don't think that that story was something that you would hear too often back in the day. I think that that's something that is a little bit more modern, a little bit more of nowadays. Women worked hard back in the days, but they kept home more so, and men went out and worked and made sure bills was covered. Obviously, things were a lot cheaper and everything was just different. So let's acknowledge that things were just different completely. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Thank you so much. So I want to ask a question, and Cal, please interject.
No, yeah, please, brother.
Can you share with us, and from your experience, how have men changed? In what ways, I guess, significant ways have men changed? I'm curious.
I think that since dating apps alone and since social media, both men and women have changed. I don't date women, so I can't really pinpoint the ways that women have changed the way that men can tell me that women have changed. But speaking from my experience, I don't think that chivalry is as big as it was prior to social media and dating apps. And I can say that I've experienced both. I've experienced pre dating apps dating, and I've experienced post dating apps dating. And I also feel like men are less, they take less initiative. I find that I see sisters going up to men more. Like just watching, you know, when I'm at an event, I see women kind of going up and approaching men more than you know, the dating app era, pre dating app era. And I see men, you know, will smile at me on the street and keep walking right past. So it's fine. You still acknowledge my presence, you know, but if you wanted to speak to me, you didn't, and you missed that. You missed that opportunity. And I'm not going to speak to you. So, I mean, I'll say hello, but I'm not going to initiate, like, oh, like you want to go out sometime? That's not me. And to the women that do that, shout out to y'all, like respect to y'all, but that's not me. So, those are two things that I automatically off the top of my head can call out, but there are others.
Thank you so much, Cal. I'm
Yeah.
Kelli, I'm loving this. Thank you. All right, so all right, so these are good. So chivalry, one, right? Men taking less initiative, and the examples of that is women approaching men more, and then men smile and keep it moving. It's interesting that you say that because, and again, this is from our perspective, right? So, I'm basing this off of my personal experience as well as what I've observed and I've learned and I've researched and all this other stuff. So, with regards to chivalry, there's been this big thing where it's been said, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, when men did take the initiative in opening the door for women, you know, be it to a building or to the car door, the response that they got from women in this independent movement, I could do it myself. I don't need a man to, you know, open the door for me. You know,
do it myself.
You know, this whole independent woman thing, right?
Right. Get that neck working. I can do it myself.
Right. You know, that whole thing. And again, we have to keep it in context, and we have to as well be transparent and honest about it. You know, it's part of rearing and teaching and what they've been taught growing up, I would think. So I would say to that point, Kelli, that I think the reason why, as a result, is a cause and effect, men stop being chivalrous is because of the reaction that they receive from women in this new independent movement that we just said. A lot of them, like you said, entrepreneurs, getting their own, starting their own business, they could do their own thing. They don't need a man. And that's all good and well, but in reality, biologically, you do. We need each other. That's a basic thing. So I'm just saying that to say in terms of chivalry, that's probably a response that men are having to how they're being treated or being responded to by women when they have done that, right? And then the less initiative as well, right? I've heard, now saying this and I'm laughing because Kyle hits me back and I'm sure, Kelli, I'm gonna get the same thing from you, but Kevin Samuels.
All right,
I saw Kelli dip back a little bit. Oh,
I knew it was coming. I had to do it. So, I mean, listen.
Not everything he says is crazy. But
right. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. Not everything. He was off. I'm giving you know, I agree. But one of the things that I noticed that he did when he mentioned women with regards to the smile, right? So and the women that he spoke to, right, weren't necessarily women of European descent or what have you. A lot of the women on his channels or what have you were people of color, Black women in particular, right? And they weren't the same women all the time. I mean, that's what hurt me, you know. And Kyle, we talk about my mom. Hey, I don't want to get into that, but that traumatized me to a degree. I'm gonna be honest, because I was raised by a strong Black woman, and a lot of my selection criteria in the women that I chose resembled that type of personality, a strong Black woman or what have you. And I'm not even going to get into my experience, because I could tell you about that. But to get to the point that I'm trying to make in regards to the smile, Kevin Samuels did a show, or whatever you want to call it, talking about, and I get it too. Women walking around, it's like they got this chip on their shoulder. They're angry. No offense, but it's termed resting bitch face. I guess that's right. Right? I'm just trying to keep it real, transparent.
Yeah.
That whole thing regarding smile. So, men now are kind of hesitant in whether he should even look at a woman, particularly a sister, because it seems like, listen, you don't know me. I don't even know you. And I'm just trying to be polite and pleasant, and, and then I'm getting this, and I get that too. Walk down, I'm from a distance, women already, it's a man. He's, it's trying to objectify, I'm talking, I
You've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, I had to, how can I say this? I had to reprogram my mind. I had to reprogram my approach to be like, first, the reality of it is she don't even know me. I don't even know her. That's her issue, not mine. All right. I don't even come. My whole thing, and Cal can tell you this, I always look at things from a half glass full approach. I'm always looking at somebody, giving them the benefit of the doubt before I'm even looking, because I'm not into that dozens type thing. I'm not trying to size you up to see how I can snap on you and see what flaws you have. I look at the best, because that's the only way I'm going to survive in this world. If you look at life from a negative perspective, you're going to die early, in my opinion. It's going to chew up, virus, that whole nine. So I don't buy into that at all. I try but I'm bombarded with this nonsense everywhere, from media, TV, music, and even outside, this whole negative kind of. So, Kelly, to get back on point, in regards to the change you see in men, I'm presenting that it's a change as a result of what they're receiving from women, not something that was like initiated by men. That's where I'm coming from. And I tie that into the Kevin Samuels, where he was talking about, what about a simple smile on your face? If a man got a beautiful smile, why is it met with such resistance, such anger, such resentment? What is this wrong with a returned smile? So for you, Kelly, as an individual woman, and understanding and taking the plight of men's health, God bless you, right? Where you're able to look at it from a different perspective and try and understand where men are coming from. But unfortunately, with this modern women era and a lot of other women, I could tell you different. That's not how they think. That's not how they view things. And I think that's why men have reacted the way they reacted, which is why I said, for the most part, men haven't changed. They're just responding or reacting to the energy and whatever the response that they're getting from women. They're adjusting, as you say we do.
So
that wasn't a question.
Adapting. You feel like it's all adapting. Okay, and like I said before, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg first. I cannot dispute that at all. I just know that I see the changes in both. I see it in both. And, I'm a New York woman, so I probably do have resting bitch face sometimes. But if you smile at me, my face will quickly turn into a smile as well. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, a child, if I find you attractive or unattractive, I'm going to return the smile. And so from my specific experience, that is what has happened, and still, so I understand if you're getting an unwelcoming response and you keep moving, but if your response is returned with warmth, then now what's the excuse?
It could be a bait and switch. I'm playing. I just felt led to say that. I had to throw that in there. Lighten it up. All right, so that okay. That's
and I want to chime in on this too.
Please, Kyle,
this is interesting as well. No, yeah, this is interesting because like being in New York and being in the major cities, come from Chicago, come from down south as well, kind of, we talk about this, a different way men and women approach each other, the culture of that city, the culture of that area. And right, in New York, you have more people who are aggressive because the city's aggressive, Chicago's one of those cities as well. Down south, you have certain cities that are picking up their pace as well because people are transplanting in. And it's just always just a very, very intriguing dynamic of how to engage with people. There's just certain things that you know, like they said, the sisters have a certain scowl on their face. It's just like, whoa, I don't think I want to. I think I want to talk to her right now. Like, looks like she about to snap on somebody. You know, and brothers too. You know, got a certain way that they carry themselves. And sisters like, oh, hold on, like, is this brother safe, or is this danger, potential danger? And those are things we have to constantly navigate with our thinking and how we engage. And I've noticed, you know, Kelly, you know, with my lady friends and my partner, you know, her and I talk about this all the time, as far as like the danger that you all women feel sometimes with being in certain environments, and how you have to engage. You know, you really have to test the waters and really check the temperature, because unfortunately, you know, men, as Kayode mentioned earlier, have taken upon themselves, certain men, to say that, well, if I'm the man, then she got to do what I say, you know, and I'm typically physically stronger than her, so I can make her do something or make someone do something. And it's just like, dude, like, get your life together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have excuse my language, family, you don't have your shit together. So why are you trying to force somebody to make them do what you want them to do just because you feeling less than? And that's when we talk about the mental health advocacy part of your mission and what you're doing out there, because, you know, people are hurting. You know, people are hurting, sisters are hurting, brothers are hurting. Like I said, chicken to the egg. We could throw all that to the side and just say we just automatically hurting in general. Like, and we all probably have a commonality in that, you know, and recognizing that we need to find outlets that can help us to heal and help us to rectify how we've been hurt, how we've been neglected, how we've been maybe unacknowledged. So, you know, like, how do you feel from talking to, like, I know you mentioned the single ladies thing on HBO, which I definitely have to check out. How do you feel? Do you feel like the sisters that you've came across, do you feel like they still have hope for brothers, or do you feel like they're equally as jaded? Because it seemed like now, like, it seems like, again, from technology, it seems like the sisters are more jaded than the brothers. It's just the brothers, you know, we've typically had the platform to talk and things like that. But do you feel like the jadedness is more or less on one side, or do you still feel like it's kind of pretty much the same?
I'd say maybe women are slightly more jaded than men, but just slightly, because I think men they catching up. And everybody has good reason. And so I want to be clear about this. Like, I don't care about the chicken and the egg. It doesn't, that's why I don't know what came first, because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in solutions. You know, I'm interested in solutions. So the whys matter less to me than the how do we fix this and move past it. That's what matters the most. I don't care about to point the finger here and there. I mean, we have to be accountable, of course, but the jadedness, I think it's on both ends, because you know, like I've said, innately we're attracted to what we're attracted to, and that attraction, what we're attracted to is a little bit harder to see in each other right now. And I do stand by, I think that that's on both ends. I don't think that that's just for women, and I don't think that that's just for men. And so naturally you're going to become a little bit jaded if experience after experience you're not getting the results that you want, and you're seeing the same couple of people in different forms. For me, I can say personally, I have a lot of hope. I think that the men that I've spoken to thus far are really amazing men, including yourself. And I just appreciate, like, no one's perfect, but I appreciate that there's an effort being made to stay accountable, but still give yourselves grace and do the work without excuses. The work doesn't happen overnight, but you got to start somewhere. All of us, men, women, and collectively and individually. So that to me is the greater conversation to have.
I like this. Now,
Right, man.
yeah, I'm not. Listen, I'm not. Again, let me just say it. All right, so thank you, Kelly. Look, Kelly's looking like, what is he gonna say? Where is he coming from? Like, no. Because
Brace
one
for
of the
impact.
the reason why I appreciate and I value, I was talking to a colleague of mine, actually 2 days ago, and we were talking about how, just in general, the world has become so jaded, right? How just what is the word I'm looking for? Just common decency. We're lacking. Like when I have a pleasant exchange with somebody just on the street, male or female, that's like it's like I've been walking in the desert for like a day, and I run across like a little puddle, of water I can drink. I'm sitting like, oh, thank God, like Eddie Murphy, like Eddie Murphy.
Can you pray for me?
No, I'm being serious. Like Eddie Murphy in his comedy when he said, "You haven't eaten anything, you eat a cracker." Yeah, that's the best tasting cracker you ever had. You know what I mean? He's like, that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling now. Like, because we're so.
Oh my gosh.
But it's true. We're so separated from each other, man. It's crazy. It's so anyway, the point I'm trying to make. With all that, it's like, oh, thank God, it's refreshing. There's hope. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
So, but I love these conversations, and it is what bring it up. I have a question for you, Kelly. Now, I break this down and I analyze this as well. Like I'm a fan of accountability, and Cal talks about this as well. I believe in tangibles, right? Talk is good, communication is great, no doubt, but we got to combine it with action steps, right? I grew up with we're good for talking, but action comes down to delegation, and we're getting done, and all of a sudden all the excuses come out. Oh, I can't because of this. I can't. You understand? So it's a delicate balance. So as I analyze this, I'm like, okay, what can men do to what can men contribute? Because it takes both. I agree with everyone, Kelly, especially you. It's not just one person's fault, right? We're both to blame, and we both have to take accountability if we're going to fix this. Right? So we agree with that, right? So not one more or the other. Okay, fine. So I look at it and I analyze it, and I'm thinking, okay, what can men do to fix it? What do we need to do? All right, we need to man up, stop making excuses, pray. I don't know if you're believers, right? Pray to our ancestors, pray to our creator, get that spiritual self built up, because without it, we're not going to stand a chance out there. So, I did all those things. Point I'm trying to make, Kelly, is this. I end up now, it may change, but when I'm evaluating the genders and I'm looking at the men and what we need to improve, and then I'm looking at my experience and women out there and what's going on and what I'm observing, I always end up coming back to this situation in regards to women and the situation that they're in and the jadedness and things of that nature. And I always come back to this question. You're in this situation because of who? And it seems like whenever that question is being presented and is being directed at women in general, I think it's a programming and indoctrination where I very rarely, and this is personal too, where I've heard women take accountability for the situation that they're on in life, particularly like having children. Just put it out there. When they have children from a deadbeat dad or broke buster or whatever, no disrespect to my brothers, you made the decision, right? There are red flags and warning signs, and I get it. He's a good talker. But for me, and that's what I'm saying in regards to men, I look at my own actions as well in my relationships, in my past relationships, and I cannot deny the fact that while I was in this relationship, I saw the warning signs and I saw the red flags, and I chose to ignore them. And I'm the only one to blame for that. I can't say it's her fault because she did this, or it's her fault because she said, no, I saw it. I knew what was going on, but the benefit of the doubt for whatever reason. But whenever that question is posed to women in regards to, okay, let's take accountability for the decisions that you made in terms of the situation that you're in, I very rarely hear women say, you're right. I take accountability for that decision. Well, it wasn't because of him, or it wasn't because of this, or I take responsibility. That's my fault. I eat it. I very rarely hear women say that. So I'm saying that to say, in terms of, and just being fair and transparent or what have you, I've seen that traced back into the indoctrination of the programming from high school, where it seems women, seems to be attracted at a young age. It's indoctrination from a young age. It's funny because they want the married life, they want the picket fence, they want the Barbie movie. You know about the Barbie movie? I just did a video on that, Kyle. You know about the Barbie, right? But from a young age, they want that white picket fence to have people. But then when we look at our lives in high school, we see like the nice nerdy kid, the quiet kid, never, was given that attention from women. Now, I'm not saying, now let me be correct with this too. It's not like the nerdy kid is looking at the nerdy girl either, right? So the nerdy kid boy is attracted to that famous popular girl too. I'm being trained.
Yeah.
But in terms of with women and the in terms of percentage wise, you seem to have it, and even now with technology today, you have this concept or what have you, where women want the excited lifestyle. They want that excitement in their life. They get bored easily. It's the whole hypergamy type thing. So my question, Kelly, to you is: do you see what is your term on that in terms of women being attracted to the bad boy, that whole thing, and then in their 20s, because that's we talk about value and that whole thing, and then after they got it out their system, quote unquote, because that seems to be a problem too. How come men can do it and women can't? That's a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying, in terms of this, what is your take on that in regards to accountability and their selection criteria in regards to the men they choose to, want to be in a relationship with, or even go that route and having children with? The question. That's a big one. Right there. Let's see how Kelly does.
So, a therapist friend of mine told me that she believes that comes from trauma and unhealed trauma, and associating the bad boy with excitement. Because, our brains, like, how do I say this? Our brains are wired to associate certain things together, even if that's not really true.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have experienced your idea, whether you know it or not, it's subconscious usually. If your idea of a passionate and exciting relationship comes from being with the type of man who comes with some trouble and some drama. And let me say, this goes both ways. Because you know how you see men with women that kind of get in their face and do all this yelling and cussing and stuff.
Blueface?
What's that?
Like Blueface, that rapper, Blue. Oh, well, you probably don't know. Anyway,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So it's that toxic thing. It gives you a high almost. Mm. And like I said, it goes for both men and women. It's a high. And so you associate that with excitement and fun and, all of those good things, but really it's toxic and your brain hasn't deciphered the difference yet. So when you come across a good guy or a good lady, they seem boring to you in your mind because you're not getting that same excitement. You're not getting that nervousness, those butterflies that you feel from, the bad boy and whatnot. So, shout out to my girls at Black Men Heal. That is something that I learned from. That's something I learned from them.
Shout out to Black Men.
And I never saw it that way prior to them calling that out within women and men as well. But it's just what our emotions associate excitement versus boredom with.
And I want to add to what you're saying, sis. We have people in the chat. Aisha, beloved, thank you. she was saying that it's a deterrent. They are attracted to that because it serves as a distraction for what they are choosing not to deal with.
Yeah.
Mm.
1000% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's so easy to focus on someone else, their needs, their desires, their problems, and avoid our own stuff, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's easier for you to be the problem than for me to be the problem. You know?
Kelly, none of us are experts here, right? So,
No.
right. But I want to ask just from your personal opinion, do you think and this is not to place blame. I think how can I put this? The percentages that is high, it's on them to, whoever has the problem is on you to fix it. So if it's a large percentage of this gender, let's reverse it, because I know I'm familiar with triggers and all that other stuff, trauma as well, right? So if a large percentage of men, let's say, for example, had this issue, then it's on men to fix it, right? If a large percentage of men have this trauma bonding, as it's called, right?
Yeah.
Then it's on men to fix it. Men should not expect or require or in any way, shape, or form want any other gender to fix it for them. Men should not want women to come into and fix you, because you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. We are all responsible for our own issues. And I've dealt with that, Kyle, personally, with a person who has an issue, everybody could come to your aid and give you everything you possibly need to fix it. But if you don't want to fix it yourself, it's not going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I said that for a reason, right? So my question is, in terms of percentages, do you think more women have that challenge with trauma bonding and that issue, or more men?
I want to say women, but it's hard to say because I do witness guys in some really unhealthy relationships with women. And I think that we always talk about domestic abuse on the end of women receiving the abuse, and that's because men are stronger than women. So the damage looks different, but men get abused. A lot of them are embarrassed to say, just like men get molested and raped. I think the percentages are reading as higher for women getting molested and raped and having sexual abuse because women report it more. Let's be very clear, but not necessarily because they experience it more. And so with that being said, I think it's toxicity on both ends. And even though what I see, I want to say, yes, it's probably women doing, connecting themselves to the wrong men and then saying, oops, I spent X amount of years with the wrong person. I want to say, yes, that probably is more of a woman's experience than a man's, but I don't know. Because the data might just not reflect what men are dealing with.
It's okay. And that's fair. And I thank you for that. And one of the things that I want to bring up, because a lot of it, a lot of it you could tell, right? Obviously you need data, facts, and statistics to support it, but common sense isn't common to everybody. But there are some situations where you kind of know, inherently you already know. And because I can go off on a tangent with that. But the reason why I pose that, it's true. The reason why I pose that question is because, and y'all let me know what y'all think about this, is because we could tell as men, we don't get a pass in life on a lot of things, right? We could talk about the patriarchy. We could talk about that. We could talk about how, it benefits men and men own most of the business. We could talk about that. That's fine. That's great. Right. But when we want to get granular and we want to get into ethnicities and things of that nature, in terms of men, we don't get a pass. There's a statement that's been said, and I'm a tie it in. I don't want to leave you hanging out there. As men, we're forced to grow. We're forced to deal with our issues. we are for as men. Yeah, I like that, Kelly. All right, come on. Let's get all right.
She's like,
Let's get to it.
oh.
All right. So you agree? Tell me if you agree with this or not. All right. So it's been said, right, where women are born with value, whereas men have to create value. Right? And
Do I agree with that statement?
I'm just asking, right? I'm making a statement out there. Let me finish the thought. Make it all right. So it's a statement that's put out there where women are born with value. And by value, I mean women, particularly like women of beauty, they get a lot handed to them for the most part, because the way it is biological. Men are attracted to beauty. That's what it is. Men are looking, you know, a pretty woman can flash a pretty smile on her face and get away with a lot, as opposed to a man. Like, and just look, for example, when just look at the scenario as an example with regards to traffic violations, right? In regards to a man and a woman. If a man is caught in a traffic violation, the officer's like, here you go, here's the ticket, boom, report to court, or here's the bill. As opposed to a woman, in many cases, come on, just keep it real, she can flash a smile, because it's biological. Come on, just not act like you don't know this, right? Just come on. Come on now. A woman can just look at, all right, so that's one example. Just look at another one. Just look at clubs, right? Women can get in the clubs for free before a certain hour. Well, men, we don't get no clubs for free. We got to pay the whole nine, right? Drinks, we can just go down the line with this thing. Just come on, right? And they didn't have to do anything for it.
Just except for put heels on, kill our feet, beat our faces, put on a tight dress, and be uncomfortable for the whole night. That's all.
That's your counter? That's your counter? That's your counter to this. That's your counter. I like it though, but that's your counter to it? That's your counter? Do women really have to put on high heels and look, really? Really? Can women walk outside?
So part of our beauty, let's if we keeping it up now.
Hold on,
part of our beauty, if we came there with sneakers and sweatpants on, we wouldn't get it let in as easily. And it would be because, this is not the standard of the club and all this BS. No, come on now. If we gonna go there, let's go. Let's go. All right. So right? I got a counter. So I got a counter for you. There's a price to pay that comes with that, that inherent value that you're speaking of beauty. There's people out here getting BBLs. There's people out here. Are we going there or what?
Yeah, yes, please, yes. Elaborate.
I'm sorry, if any of y'all viewers are sensitive, you probably shouldn't have had me on today.
No, go.
Let's go.
That's what we had. Let's go.
If women are out here getting BBLs, doing all this stuff to their bodies, to their faces, as we age, that inherent value, it goes down, right? But y'all's go up. Yes. So I'm just saying I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I agree that we do have an inherent value because of our beauty. But first of all, what about the women who are not looked at as beautiful in society? Let's talk about that.
Let's go.
And second of all, if we're talking about beauty, we got to talk about the upkeep of that and the pressure that comes with that. Like, you guys have a pressure to protect and provide, because that's where your value comes from in society. We have a pressure to maintain our beauty, because that's where our value comes from. And what that's looking like right now is a lot of plastic surgery. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong or right with that. I'm just saying that that's a product of the pressure. Even if it's a subconscious thing, and women will say, I did it for myself or whatever. That's fine, sis. But inherently, our beauty is our value in this world. And so you can't even really know, like, as a woman, that on a subconscious level, because you were raised into this society, that you made that decision in part because, our beauty is held at such a high standard, more than our intelligence, more than us just being good human beings and women. And I just think, I think it comes at a price.
Mhm.
I think it comes at a price. That's all I'm saying. But I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and and I definitely
I can't read you guys the live, the chats and so I don't know if people are going off, but
No.
okay.
I see. No. Aisha was basically saying that she agreed with you on an earlier point, and she said our value is solely on our looks, then everything is secondary. And then she also mentioned we have a ton of women physically and emotionally abusing men, like you said earlier. So yeah, I see that point. I see it in regard to what you're saying, Kelly, and I see what Kayode is saying, because as men, we're held accountable for certain things in society. We're not able to we're not able to avoid that. Whereas it seems like, here's how I'm seeing it is, like you just said, there's certain criteria for certain aspects of value. Yes. Like you said, men come from to provide, protect. We are judged on that. That's our grade, right? That's our rubric. Women are mostly judged on their looks, and then, like you said, everything else. And I think, again, and here's what me and Kayode have talked about a lot, and we stand on this. So this is really about more so what other men are thinking, what people have thrown out there in these some so-called conversations, which are some really highly toxic. But yeah, but this rubric that we're using, it's like you're faulting the women for being judged on their beauty, but that's why you like her. And then women are judging men on how you provide or protect, and like you're not doing it, but that's why you feeling this brother. And it's just like, why are we shaming each other for these criteria that we hold each other to? It's like, aren't we holding each other to this? Like, and that's why I don't understand. It's just like, okay, you're faulting her for relying on her beauty, but that's why you with her. That's why you approached her. That's why you wanted to even talk to her initially.
Right.
And it's just this kind of, it's this like this, it's almost like a jealousy. Yeah, I feel like it's like this kind of like jealousy, like, man, she didn't have her looks. And it's kind of like women like, well, if he wasn't a man, it's like, what are you talking about? Like what's happening here? Like,
maybe that could be very true.
Let me interject, Cal. Thank you so much, because I love this, right? So, man, what you said, Kelly, is right. I agree with you. We agree with each other. We're on the same page with it, right? So, and like you said, what are the solutions, right? And to your point, Cal, it just doesn't make any sense. That's why you're attracted to her. That's why you're attracted to him. That whole thing. First of all, I think it's just superficial. Number one, I think we've been brainwashed, we've been indoctrinated. Period. Right? In regards to that's, and then later on in life, we realize what really matters. That's what it basically comes down to. Right? We realize it's not about the beauty. Hope so, right?
Let's hope so.
I think all of us have that to a degree.
Because a lot of people, unfortunately, knock on wood, like they die with these type of like ideas, and they bitter. They, like you said, they own this like negative vibration, and it doesn't do the body good. What they say, milk does the body good, bitterness don't do the body good. You know what I'm saying? It's like, now you take bitter foods, that does the body good, but emotional bitterness does not do the body good. Right? It doesn't. Like, you see these people like just jaded, man. It's just like, yo, bro, you need to.
Right, but Cal,
help, man.
Cal, to that point, right? We're looking at percentages, though, right? Because you're not going to save everybody. There's always going to be somebody. Unfortunately. Right, but I'm saying we're talking in general terms as far as society is concerned, in regards to the outlandish propaganda and indoctrination and promotion. Right, you see these superficial values being promoted on TV, in music. Just think for a minute if that was reversed. If holistic, more realistic, more humane values were promoted, you would see a drastic change in society. You wouldn't have a.
You and I talked about this. I'm sure Kelly can definitely add on. We talked about this. Society produces these psychologies. That's one thing I found out in the past year, Kelly. Like when we talked, and me and Kayode have been talking ad nauseum about this. Like, these things are not absolved from society. Certain societies produce these, I would say, psychological deficiencies. Like it has to come out of somewhere. So it's not like, oh, society exists and then we have these deficiencies. It's like, no, the society creates these deficiencies.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's like if the society is good, then the people's good. So if the people, so you can say it's like going back to my kind of lawyer practice. It's like if this, then this. So can we say the opposite? If they have these psychological deficiencies, then can we say that society is also deficient? We could say that's fair. Because if society is holistic, why would it create all these deficiencies?
Yeah.
Real quick, hold that thought there. Kelli, we're 15 minutes past the top of the hour. It's on you.
Yes.
You have a few more minutes. You want to continue the conversation, or we can
20 more minutes.
about to close out right now. It's up to you.
We could do another like 15 minutes ish.
Okay.
So we got 15 minutes.
All right.
Okay, Cal, continue. I just had to.
Well, no, I just want to pose that, to the people who are watching and, us here, talking because, Kelli, going back to you, you have that experience with talk with men in general. And I want to kind of get some feedback on that. Let me ask this, what was an initial thought you had before you started your project when in interviewing Black men about their emotional health? And what's something that was kind of like, wow, I didn't really realize this. Like, so initial thought you had to say, oh, I think I'm going to experience this. And then what was one thing that you found out like, oh, this is actually better, or this is actually worse than I actually thought?
Well, prior to going on this journey of interviewing different men, I was really just thinking about how if I was a man, a Black man in this society at that time, and even prior to constantly seeing my own images in the news in a negative light, in the media in a negative light, how that would impact me mentally and emotionally. And just the trauma that our people have come through and amazingly survived through, and how society has given opportunities to women that they haven't given to men, like I said, on purpose, and what that does to the psyche of both men and women and how that changes our dynamic. And so I said I wanted to just have some really honest conversations with any brothers that were open to doing so. And I thought about my questions and how I could be a resource, because I can't ever teach a man how to be a man. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. But I can just give you resources and leave you to your own devices, and that's kind of what Jean Josephine is, and give you an ear, And so when I first started asking these questions, I thought that my responses were going to be a lot more generic than they were. I did not expect I have to be honest, I didn't expect the vulnerability that I've been receiving. And it's been really eye-opening and really beautiful. I've had guys tell me that they feel like it's a form of therapy for them. And that's amazing, just to be able to like release, I guess. And that no one has really asked that question before and stuff like that. And so it's been a lot more, the feedback has been way better than I initially thought. I thought men were going to be like, angry that how dare, you're a woman, how dare you? I thought women would be angry. You're a woman, how dare you? But men have been servicing women since the beginning of time. So as far as us being consumers, these companies are typically male ran, white male ran at that. And, yes. Targeting us because we establish culture and, we do that. So they target us. And so I'm like, well, why can't I, as a woman, target men when the opposite has been going on since the beginning of time? And so my response has been I'm very pleased to say my response has been a lot better than I thought it would be. I've been getting some good details, some good eye-opening data. And that's what I was hoping for, but that's not what I was necessarily expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So do you still think in terms of men, Black men, particularly, it's still a chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I haven't researched, far back enough to understand who changed. Because yes, I understand that laws and everything were oppressing women in a way that we're no longer oppressed. And so that automatically is going to open up a whole different world and change women because your experience is changing for anyone. But just to be honest, the data hasn't really skewed that. It's just opened my eyes as to some of the things that Black men are dealing with and feeling that they don't feel safe. Because we always talk about women not feeling safe. And it's been eye-opening to hear that no matter what the facade is, no matter how big and strong or whatever, you what you're seeing is not necessarily what's going on behind what's going on in the person's head and heart. So that's been my biggest takeaway. Because I didn't really, I don't care about what happened first in the chicken or the egg. I just really care about how can we help each other to get on a less destructive path, and how can we make a change for us now and for the generations that are coming behind us.
Gotcha. If you don't mind, I'm no expert, right? I just have an intuitive type, I don't know, personality or what have you, and I get it. From what I'm interpreting from what you're saying, Kelli, you don't care about placing blame to a large. It's about solutions. Okay, so this is what I had to learn. I'm just throwing it out as a suggestion. There's the statement that says, if you don't learn from your past, you're destined to repeat it.
Yes.
Right. So for me, I don't like dealing with conflict. I don't like dealing with other stuff. But what I've learned is I have to look at it. Right. I have to look at in terms of the chicken or the egg, which came first. I have to do that research because it's going to give me the valuable information that I need in order to come to my solution. Right. And I also say this as well. The road to success is through failure. Right. You can never be successful if you don't fail. There's no successful person that's been successful that didn't have any failure. Right.
Yes.
In terms of us, and Kyle says this very well, it's a sickness. Right. We as a culture, we're sick. We've been poisoned. Kyle, you never used this term before. We've been poisoned. So in order to find a cure to this poison, we have to look at and do our research on where this poison came from. And then once we find where this poison came, there's this movie that came out called The Medicine Man with Sean Connery. It's finding, all right, we know where the poison came from. Now we can take those same ingredients and come up with a solution. Right? So when we talk about the chicken or the egg, it's not about finding fault. It's not about who did this first, who did this second. It's just about finding out, okay, what's the origin of this daggone thing? So that we can figure out, okay, so we know where it started. So now just start working on ways that we can find solutions to fix it. And that's just a suggestion that's I learned for myself. And that's this is why I value these conversations that we're having. And I think we need to continue these conversations. But I wanted to just throw that out there. And I wanted to have more fun, but we only have 15 minutes left. So I can't go any further than that. But what else? Because again, Kelli, don't forget to give us your platform. Please elaborate more on what you're doing, where people can find you and things. I want to make sure we don't end this conversation without, the viewers knowing where you're. And we'll put this in edits as well. Just want to give you that platform. So I guess I guess now, Kyle, with the few minutes we have remaining, like any final thoughts or, any one last thing we want to bring up that wasn't discussed, and we might want to, any of those, do we have any of those in these last?
Yeah, I would definitely want to bring up, because Aisha had mentioned it earlier in the chat, in regard to the provider, the protector, the professor, the provision, and the woman being the nurturer, the nourisher. I think that we can also, in those roles, I should mention that those roles can be reversed. The men can be the nurturer, the men can be the nourisher, as well as the woman can be the provider, the protector, the provider, right? See, I didn't think I was good at. So
I want to say something there. I don't know if we have time though.
Okay. So I want to get Kelly's thoughts on that, because I guess we as men aren't used to hearing that, and I want to see how women could be the providers, the protectors, because I think we sometimes miss that in our talks with each other as men and women, Black men and women, men and women of color, and get your thoughts on that, Kelly, like how those roles can be reversed, or how you interpret those roles being reversed.
So I want to respond to two things. I do want to say that I think we've identified where the poison comes from. I don't think that has anything to do with the chicken or the egg. And I think we know where that comes from. And so with us knowing, the removal of father figures, from homes intentionally, and locking our men up and bringing drugs into our neighborhood, and, mass incarceration, and the list goes on. I think we know where the poison is. So it's about moving forward now, in my opinion. But I want to say to what you said, Kyle, I think that still stems back to the removal of men from homes, that role reversal sort of thing. And I don't think it's necessarily always a bad thing. I think that women definitely protect from the beginning of time. It just wasn't labeled that way. And I think that men have been nurturers from the beginning of time as well. It just wasn't labeled that way, because part of providing is nurturing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're preparing a meal in the literal sense, or if you're going out to make the money to prepare the meal, it's still nurture, in my opinion. That's still nurture. And protecting doesn't always have to be physical. I've been in relationships where I felt physically protected, and emotionally, not so much. So I think that we all wear both of the hats more than we think. We just don't look at it under those lenses. And we define protection and provision and nurturing as that textbook literal sort of definition, but it doesn't always have to look like that.
That's pretty good. Kelly, to your point, thank you in regards to finding the core or the problem, the source of the problem. Incarceration rates, men being taken out of the home, things of that nature. Very good. Very good. I gotta process that. I really want to process that and incorporate it. To Kyle's point, with the time we have, you brought up a very valuable point as well, as far as definitions, right? It's how we term it, the nurturer, protector, things of that nature. That's got to be considered. That's true. I agree with that. But my concern is that it leads to further confusion, whereas we're making up our own definitions. What something is, right? There has to be a universal understanding on what is. There has to be a universal understanding that blue is blue, black is black, red is red, up is up, and down is down. I don't think it's safe if we talk, all right, red is up to my interpretation. I think this is blue and this other thing is green, but black universally. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think we've got to be clear. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. not up to our interpretation, what we got now, with no offense to the LGBTQ community, and we see where that's at. I'm saying we have to have a clear understanding, a universal understanding of what the definition of our terms are. Period. To remove any confusion, because we got enough of it out here already. Now, the other thing I want to bring up in regards to protector and providing things like that, this is what I'm talking about, clear delineation of what roles are, what our roles are. We can't deny the fact of biology, right? We can't deny it. I don't care how much women want to think that they can beat a man in boxing, football, these girls, they just can't do it. They're not biologically built that way. And that's not a bad thing, right? I don't care what we think men think they can have babies. They can't do it. It's not a biological reality. It's not how our creator made us, right? So God made man to be this physical size to protect. That doesn't mean he made man to take advantage.
Yes.
If we know our roles, then we know our roles. If we know our hierarchy, we know our hierarchy. If we follow God, God says we are to respect our women, right? And vice versa. So if you respect your woman as you respect yourself, you're not going to try and hurt your woman because you won't want to hurt yourself. So this whole definition of men can be providers, no, women are natural nurturers. It's their femininity. A woman's femininity is that'll break a man's defenses. We know about this. We talked about this in our videos before. When a woman is in her femininity, she's the most powerful being, and the freak man, I don't care how masculine a man is, he's going to crumble because that femininity is powerful. It's the same thing in regards to masculinity. Right? There's a certain thing about a man's masculinity that with a woman, if he's masculine, and I'm talking about a good masculine man. Again, I'm not talking about taking advantage. I'm talking about that in and of itself is pure. It's you can't deny that. So in regards to this, my point is, in regards to this whole role reversal, get that out of here. We got to go to the basics. Man is a man, woman is a woman, a man is a protector, a woman is a nurturer. Let's just own that, please, and just focus on building that and strengthening that instead of these other derivatives and all these other stuff. So that's my point in regards to that. I know we don't have enough time, but yeah, that's my statement on that.
Okay. So thank you for that.
I was like, all right.
Yeah, cool. Great. But that's why I love this platform, because we're able to share these things. And that's what we created the Grand Rise Collective platform for, Kelly, is like to really be able to like express these things, these point of views out of respect for each other. And also we can agree sometimes to disagree, but it's all love and respect and no harsh judgment at all. And also gives us things to think about, and, you doing the work that you're doing as a creative director, as a Black mental health advocate, and the project you're doing with Jean Josephine, like, we applaud that, we salute that. And, we really, implore a lot of our listeners and people who are watching and people who subscribe that, like, you're an example. Like you've taken your skill set and you're giving this back to the community. You're providing for the community and you're giving something that we can take that's going to have lasting effects in many different ways. You as a creative director, stylist with clothing, that's the whole thing we didn't really get into, but that plays a part in how we perceive ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And that goes into mental health as well, as we know. People say, you look good, you feel good, you do good, right? So that plays all into that. But I wanted you, because we're about to end now, but I want you to share some things, any lasting thoughts on our conversation, or just some things you want to share with the viewers outside of your business, but just, your thoughts on what we talked about.
It's definitely a lot to process here. And I just appreciate that we can all be honest. And, it's a lot of sensitivity right now. Not to say that there always hasn't been. I'm sure it has, but it's being recorded now. Everything is recorded now. And so, the sensitivity is heightened. And I feel like nobody can say what they truly feel without some sort of backlash. So it's been refreshing to be able to express myself without that type of sensitivity. And I hope y'all feel the same way.
Absolutely.
because I'm not that sensitive, and it's driving me crazy right now. It really is. Like, I think that is a barrier to solutions and healing, is the sensitivity and the egos. So that would just be my lasting thoughts, is that I hope that we are all doing the work on ourselves individually so that collectively we can be better, and checking our egos, and living our most joyful, peaceful lives. That's it.
Indeed.
I can say something now.
Yeah. It's our platform.
I have nothing different than what Miss Kelly said. I think, Kelly, what you just said was so powerful towards solutions. I think the top priority, when we look at priorities as far as this is a culture, is to do that work on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the problem. You said sensitivity. I was thinking like in the desert with that puddle of water after working a mile. That whole thing. It was like, we have to do the work ourselves. I think that's part. We already noticed like the problem, the virus, like you said, Kelly. But I think if I say anything, Kyle, final word, stop focusing on everybody else and what they're doing wrong or what they got wrong. Start focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the hardest work there is. That's why I think technology, oh my God, I think that's why technology has been able to have such a major influence today, because it's given everybody an distraction. Kelly, you said distraction. Focus on ourselves. That's the key. That's it. That's it, Cal. That's all I got. Just focus on yourself.
Indeed. So before we end on this note, family, Kelly, please give the people your social where they can maybe contact you and or support what you're doing, because you're doing, again, great work here in the city, and people need to know that you exist and that this is happening. Maybe you can inspire them to do it in their own city or whatnot. But yeah, please give us your socials and where they can support and whatnot.
So you can find Jean Josephine on Instagram at _JeanJosephine. And you can find my styling profile on Instagram at LEPETIT_CREATIF, Le Petit Creative.
Okay.
Feel free to slide in my DMs. If you have any objections to anything I said, I'm not sensitive. It's fine. You don't have to agree.
I heard that. Indeed. Nice. Okay. So family, you heard it here. Grand Rise Collective Podcast. Thank you for taking your time to listen to us. Join us in the discussion. If you have any other questions, definitely put them in the comments below. This is a live recording, but of course, when we post this up, please put your comments below so we can contact and have that communal engagement, because we want that. We need that. Please subscribe, share, like, all right, and support us. This is definitely one of those things that we're trying to heal the community, not break down the community, not hurt the community. And when I talk about community, I'm talking about men and women being together, whatever dynamic that is, but we have to have respect, love, and grace for each other, right? And that's what we're doing here in the Grand Rise Collective, because we want you to rise to your best, rise to the occasion, like we used to talk about, right? So, any last words, Kayode, before we chime out?
I said my last words, brother. Thank you so much. You're a beast at this, man. Thank you so. I'm just about to stop the live. You ready?
Okay. So as we do, Kelly, at the end, I don't know if Kayode wants to do it, but I've gotten so used to it. You know what I'm saying? I've gotten so used to it. All right. So we typically do on a count of 3, right? We do the peace sign, right?
Okay.
That's just what we do. That's hey, man.
Let's do it.
Oh, cool. Okay. See, Kayode,
Oh man, all right. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, peace. We do the peace sign for the peace sign.